Greetings. This is going to be a very short video on how to properly draw chevrons, since this has become an issue and lots of folks aren't certain how it's done. The ideas in this video are based on some drawings that Gunvor Oral Herald has done, so I owe her a thank you for putting it in a format that I understood. Now I'm going to make this into a video. What I'd like to be very clear on, though, is that this is a very mathematical way to do it. You don't need to do this mathematically. In fact, you shouldn't. This heraldry is not math. The math is there to help you figure out what it ought to look like. And you certainly shouldn't be drawing these rulers when you're doing actual heraldry. What you should be doing is kind of visualizing them in your head. And if it looks good in your head, then it's good enough. We're looking for gross imbalance, not mathematical precision. So what's the standard? The standard was set in one of the cover letters, and the standard is it has the chevron or a per chevron or a chevron inverted has to be balanced over the per fess line. Well, what does that mean? That means that we need to see what the per fess line is. So let me start a screen share, and we will start. So this is my drawing here in Inkscape, and I have here a standard shield shape complete with the tick marks. The tick marks are very helpful. And I have a little ruler. The ruler is not in any particular units. It's just there to help us. Now, the first thing I'd like you to note is that the tick marks are not in the vertical middle. If you count the boxes, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost 6 boxes from the top to the tick mark, but from the tick mark to the bottom, it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8 boxes down. And that's on purpose, because with the heater shield shape, we are not dividing the field into two halves that have an equal height. We're dividing it into areas that are approximately the same area. So since the bottom tapers, we make it taller in order to make it work. So what does it mean to make a balanced chevron? Let's draw a per chevron line, and we will take a quick look. I'm going to freehand this, so it may look terrible. So is that balanced? Well, how do we tell? One way to tell is to say, is the space above it about the same as the space below it? If we were to take, I don't know, we were to do this, is there about as much white as green? Well, it's hard to tell because they're not even shapes, they're not regular shapes, so it's pretty hard to tell. If this was a square badge form, it'd be a lot easier. For some reason, my ruler turned green. Doesn't matter. Okay, so how do we actually tell? Well, the way we tell is we draw a couple of lines as a ruler, and what we do is we draw a per fess line. And that's just a line that goes across the tick marks. Okay, so that red line there is our, let's change some colors. Let's make this, like that. Let's make this blue. Okay, so the red line is our per fess line. That's where the tick marks are. We're going to draw 2 more guidelines. And we're going to make them, I don't know, purple. We're going to draw one here and one purple turned out to be. And we're going to put this one right across the top. And we wanted to make it purple, right? And we're going to make another one across the bottom of our per chevron field. Now take a look. It's actually very obvious now if we use our ruler. the bottom of the chevron is not quite one box down from the perf S line. The top is about 2.5. This is not a balanced chevron. So how do we make it balanced? We have a couple of options. We can take, let's put these guidelines out of the way, we can take the whole thing and just slide it down. Obviously, the corners aren't trimmed, but I don't care. Now, if we look at it, that's about 1.5 boxes. That's about 1.5 boxes. That's balanced. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is we can steepen it. We can, instead of moving the whole thing down, we can say, well, we kind of like where the top of it is. So we will leave that there, and that's 2.5 boxes. So we want the bottom of the chevron to also be 1.5 boxes. So we will take the bottom of it and move it down here. Okay? That's now a balanced per chevron line. If we take our guidelines away and fill thing, that's a balanced per chevron line. Now, some people talk about steep versus shallow, and that's not actually a requirement. I've seen people say, well, that chevron is no good because it's too shallow. There's actually no such rule. Let me give you an example of a perfectly fine shallow chevron. So our red line goes back across here. And let's say we put a purple lines at 1 inch, at 1 box rather. So wrong. This should be here. So we put that there. We put that there. We put that there. Okay. Drag these off to the side. That's a perfectly acceptable chevron that is well balanced over the perf S line. It's shallow. If you look at period artwork, early period, you tended to get very steep chevrons. Late period, you tended to get very shallow chevrons. So if we want so this is a late period chevron. If we want an early period chevron, we can try setting something like this: 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes. And we modify this to there, and this to there, and that to there. Here's a nice earlier period per chevron field. Okay, both are acceptable. What's the important thing is they're balanced over that perf S line of ours. They're balanced over this mark. Now, if you're dealing with a chevron inverted, chevrons inverted are not nearly as common as chevrons, but they are permitted. So the rule is exactly the same. Here is a well-balanced per chevron inverted line. Okay, it's same exact formula, same exact setup. So that's per chevron. Now, what about chevrons itself? Chevrons themselves also have to be balanced, but of course they're a little bit more complicated because they are thicker. So let's mock up a A chevron, and I'm not too concerned about the thickness of this chevron here. Oops. Okay, so here's our, let's join these. Okay, so here is our chevron. It's not filled with anything, but we will just ignore it. So the rule is the same. We want it balanced over the line. So if we move our guidelines to the top and to the bottom, again, we're ignoring the little bits that are extending past the edge. Is this balanced? 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes. It is not. So we need to move the whole thing up just a bit. Okay, we're about 4.5 boxes, pretty close. Okay, so there's a balanced chevron. If we were to flip it over to do a chevron inverted, we'd look at exactly the same kind of thing. So that's a well-balanced chevron inverted, because the top of this and the bottom of that are balanced across the profess line. The only other thing we need to talk about is what happens if there's other stuff on the field. So let's move all this off for a second. Suppose you have a chief, and a chief is the most common kind of thing to interfere with. So there's our chief. Let's make our chief black. Okay, so the chief squishes everything down, and what that means is we need to move. I don't like this shape of that chief. Let's make that chief 2 boxes. It's an arrow. It's an arrow chief. We need to move everything down proportionately. But remember how we said that the top and bottom aren't equal? So if this chief is 2 boxes in my example, it's not quite 2 boxes. If in my example it's 2 boxes tall, then we've got to move the profess line half that down. We've got to move it 1 box so that the space taken up by the chief is evenly distributed. Half of it is above, half of it is below. Now we can again put our chevron here, and we can draw our guidelines in reference to the existing chief. So that's 4 boxes up, 4 boxes down. There we go. That's now balanced in its new space. So we're not balancing over the actual fest tick marks, we're balancing in the space available. A similar thing happens when we have charges. Let's say, if in the most common example, when you have with chevrons, you would have 3 charges. So let's say we have, I don't know, mullets. So if we do this, we can leave our chevron just where it is, well balanced in the middle of the field. But sometimes submitters don't want 3 mullets. Sometimes they want 1 big one in the bottom. Oh, that's going to look terrible. Is it okay to take this and move it up some? Yeah, it's fine. Is it balanced now? No, but the presence of that 1 charge bumps it up. We could also have flattened it some, and done something closer to balanced, but we don't have to. So that's still a little bit a hair high, but that's pretty good. If we take our guidelines away, you can see that's reasonable looking. Similarly, if we have a client who wants 1 mullet up above, is it okay to shift this down a bit? Yeah, Although here I probably would definitely flatten it out. Up, it's too flat. I would definitely flatten it out and try to get it as close to balance as possible. And the same thing applies to inverted chevrons and inverted per chevrons. That's about it. So, so that's how you draw a chevron. If you have any questions, please get in touch with me. My information is available on the other videos. I suppose I should probably put it up here in the video so that folks can see it. Best way to reach me. Hang on. Okay, so there's my contact info. You can email the East Kingdom address is elmet@eastkingdom.org, and the webpage elmet.eastkingdom, eastkingdom.org are the official addresses, but East Kingdom servers are currently having some issues, so you can always use my personal ones, jgallic@gmail.com or yehudaheraldry.com/EKHU, East Kingdom Herald University. And that's it. That's how to draw chevrons. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.